Hi, welcome to Largo's Lair. I'm Largo. This is the lair. You can probably hear Eduardo out there occasionally crowing. Today, we're going to talk about Medicom toy MAFEX action figures. I've been collecting these for a little while. They're a Japanese import and they are spectacular. They started out a little rocky, super articulated, and some of their earlier works, it was kind of hit or miss how good the articulation was, but the sculpts have always been excellent. These are some of the more recent ones that I've picked up, and today I want to spotlight the T-800, Ani, from his first outing as the T-800 Terminator. This is a beautiful figure. If you're a fan of the movie, and I was, back in the early 80s, this was cutting-edge sci-fi. Stan Winston did some great special effects. Arnold was Arnold, and it was kind of his breakout that led to a much bigger career. So I've always been kind of partial to this character, and this particular version is really nice. I mean, there have been some others. NECA did these a while back, but they were kind of clunky. The figures were oversized for my taste. I like 112. A lot of NECAs are 7-inch or so, but this one's right where I live. It's a 1/12 scale. It's beautifully done, and I like it. Just haven't even taken it out of the package, and I'm just really, really enamored with the way it's put together, the logos, the styling, the accessories, which they have a lot of, and they should, because this is a premium product. They don't come cheap. So I'm going to open this up. We're going to take a look at the T-800 by MAFEX. So, is it MAFEX or is it MAFEX? Interesting question. So, MAFEX is actually not a real word. It is something that the Medicom toy company made up. It is, the technical term is porte-monnaie, which is a fancy French way of saying blending different words and concepts together. It stands for the idea of miracle action figure, EX, extreme or whatever. So, kind of like brunch, is breakfast, lunch, brunch. And the closest approximation in Japanese is actually MAFEX, which sounds weird. So, the closest way of saying it in American or English, depending on where you are in the world, is MAFEX. And now you know, and the more you know. Here we are with our Terminator taken out of his box. The box is really cool in and of itself. When you open it up, you've got some special details of some pictures of Arnie from the film. And on the flap here, it even has a little saying, no pity, no pain. What else does it say? No fear, something unstoppable. So it's just kind of neat that they put that little extra detail on the packaging. And then a great picture of Arnold from the movie. And this particular look is more or less about midway in the film. When he says his famous line, "I'll be back." He's wearing this leather jacket, which is a little different from how he looks in the beginning of the film. But this is the look they chose, and it is really cool. So, a lot of accessories. Chock full of hands. He's got hands for every occasion. He's got, every weapon that he needs. And everything that was in the film is here. Also included, and we'll go into those details of the accessories in a minute, MAFEX always comes with a figure stand. That's something that's standard with all of the MAFEX brand stuff. So it's kind of cool. Normally it's just your typical action stand or flight stand, but this time it's a little bit different. They also include this stationary stand, which is something they have just recently started doing. So it's just a pole and then you can adjust and clip at the waist. So, you know, for a figure that doesn't fly, if you're not doing an action pose, you're just doing something more vanilla and you want to make sure he doesn't fall off the shelf, that's a neat added feature. Personally, I like the action or flight stand because I like putting them in action poses. So I'll have to tighten that up. And always keep your handy screwdriver around. They leave these loose in the package on purpose for you to be able to get it where you want it. And then once you adjust it, tighten them up a little bit and they'll stay where you put them. So are they the best stand in the world? No, but it comes with the product. It's a nice value add. As is typical of these Japanese imports, they usually come with some packaging plastic around the torso, and that's to keep from having any kind of paint rub while it's going through the shipping process. So, as I usually stress, grab your heat gun, heat that bad boy up. Don't have to take a lot of time, but you want to hit the joints, make sure it's nice and warmed up. And these are usually pretty good right out of the package, but why take chances? So, doesn't take much, just make sure he's nice and limber, especially for the investment you're putting into these things. They're fairly expensive. Once you've got him limbered up, you're going to want to pop him at the torso. And you'll see he's got a torso section that's got the bottom of his shirt. And then there's a secondary torso section, which is a little trickier to pop out. There we go. And that's where the extra plastic bit is. I wish they wouldn't do that. I don't think it's necessary. It's just a hassle because then I have to take the figure apart when I get it. But while I have it here, I'll show you some of the articulation points. So the torso has 2 different articulation points, which is nice. So he can do some serious crunches. As you can see, it ports into the bottom of the upper torso, and that just helps to maintain that midsection when you're moving him around. Gives you a lot of possibilities. He has some definite movement in the shoulders, butterfly joint, and double jointed at the elbow, which is a little tricky to see on camera with this black leather jacket he's wearing, but you get good range of motion, not a problem. And of course wrist articulation and those multiple hands, you can put him in pretty much any kind of gesture you want. Neck articulation, as you would expect, at the top of the neck and at the bottom of the neck. So he can move and nod, no problem. You can get plenty of emotive looks out of him since he didn't say much in the film. Standard head is his shades for when he loses an eye and heads into the police station and terrorizes everybody. Also comes with his head from earlier in the film when he still had all of his hair. If I can get him out of the package. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Yay! So, hands galore. And the hands also come on these little bitty nubbins, which is kind of cool. So each pair of hands stay together. And we like that. That keeps hands from getting lost. So you've got your left and right that you want. So we've got our trigger hands for the weapons. and we'll show the weapons in a second. We've got jazz hands, yeah. We've got slightly gripping hands, which, I don't know, maybe those are just for a particular pose or just to look menacing, or if you put him on a motorcycle or whatever. And more relaxed hands. So pretty much any pose you want to put him in, you've got hands to match. And then he's got fists that he comes with right off the bat. So nice detail on these. He's wearing the gloves with the, you know, that kind of 80s style where the knuckles are exposed. Whatever he picked up when he accosted some people and took their clothes. So back to the heads. So we've got his, he's not going to stand up very well. That's all right. So we've got the shades. We've got the head from the beginning of the film, or earlier parts of the film, before he had his hair burnt off, if you remember from the film. And the likeness is just spot on. I'm digging it. That's Arnie. That's Arnie in his prime, and it looks great. I would say it's probably a better likeness than the NECA. So after he had a couple run-ins with Kyle Reese, he was looking a little bit worse for wear, and here we have him with his cyborg parts exposed. Yee. So looks like it was just right out of the film. Great likeness, really good, and I like it. So it's going to be tough to decide how to pose him and display him because all of these options are awesome. Another nice thing with MAFEX, their joint systems are pretty good nowadays. They're much better than they were when they first started. They have made improvements over the years. They're flexible. And if he does take a gainer off of the shelf, there's a better chance that he'll pop apart instead of breaking. But use a stand. Feet are pretty wide. There are no pegs because he does come with an actual stand. So you don't really need the pegs for a foot stand. Those don't work great anyway. Lower body articulation is as you would expect. He has some toe articulation, which is kind of peculiar and stiff. But I don't see I'll be using a whole lot of that in photography because he's wearing those motorcycle boots. But the articulation is there. He's got your ankle pivot that you want. Like I said, there is the toe. And he has a single knee, which I guess makes sense because of the cut of the boots, or I mean cut of the pants, so that they didn't break up the seam not too much, and it gets a pretty good range of motion. You get your 90 at least. Would I have liked it to be double jointed? I don't think it's necessary. I mean, you get a little better than 90 with these. They're very flexible even for it being a single joint. When they're bent all the way, it's kind of ugly. You can definitely see the articulation point, but you know, what are you going to do? How often did you really see him bent over like that anyway? He was usually standing and looking menacing or walking. But overall, looks good. Great articulation. I'm not going to go over every single point because you guys have seen that, you know, a million times in other reviews. You know by now, or you should, what articulation is on these kind of premium figures. He's got everything you need where you need it and nothing you don't. So, that is that. See how he stands without the stand. Oh yeah, guy's got a good stance. I pull him back here a little bit. Yeah, so he stands well without the stand. You can put him on the stand and get some more dynamic poses like he's launching a punch or what have you. Whoops, try not to knock his foot off while you're doing it. Like I just did. And again, I haven't tightened this stand because I just pulled him out of the package. Let me grab his foot. There it is. Yeah, I like the fact that they would rather pop off than break when you are manipulating them. So that's kind of a nice feature with MAFEX. So if you want to do an action pose, you can do that. You can have him kicking somebody or whatnot. Hiya. So not bad. I'll have to tighten up the stand to get him as dynamic as we want, but for now, that is that. We'll look at his other accessories here in just a moment. All right, let's look at some weaponry. So I've got him on his basic stand, just to give you an idea. Looks pretty good and is very stable, which is what we want. So here we have him with his look from earlier in the film when he is tracking down Sarakana. I think it's a Desert Eagle with kind of a crazy laser scope kind of thing going on there. That was popular for a minute in the 80s. They did a really good job. Fits in the hand well, definitely scaled for this figure, and gives him a really cool look. So, what else we got? Comes with a revolver, which I seem to remember seeing in the film, but it seemed like Kyle Reese was the one that had the revolver. Maybe Arnie did too. I'd have to go back and see the film. It's been a while. But yeah, also fits well in the hand and looks good on the figure. Good detailing. Blast effect would be nice, but I don't think they left room for something. I probably could do some jiggery pokery and make it work, but it's good enough. For being up on the shelf, it's going to look really nice. Next we've got the Uzi that he was mowing some folks down with on his crusade for Sarakana. And this is basic black, but most are in real life. The sculpt is good. Again, fits in his hand really well. Looks very menacing, as it should. And not bad. The hands are a little bit stiff. I did heat them up earlier, so probably if I hit them with a little more heat, it'll make them a little more flexible for putting weapons in the hand. The assault rifle looks awesome. And they went a little extra on the detail on this as far as adding the additional magazine that's strapped to the weapon and not having a shoulder support. Because Arnie's a big boy and he can one-hand this thing. Looks really nice. And we have a trigger hand for the other side, so we might as well take advantage of that and pop in his boomstick. He comes with a shotgun that he also used in the film, and to great effect. So if you want to have him two-handed style, having with his assault rifle back, as we've seen in a couple of images. Put his mean, nasty shade head on for that. Tweak him out a bit. Oh yeah. There is a slight amount of detail added to the shotgun, just on the port where the shells are going to come out. Probably should put that on the other side, but you get the idea. Definitely looks good. So, a lot of potential poses with this guy. Some great toy photography options with these weapons. They did a good job. I'm very impressed. So, multiple options for how we're going to pose him and with what we will pose him. I think for right now, we'll just give him one of his relaxed hands, his shades, this really big assault weapon, tweak the stance, and Bob's your uncle. We have the Terminator ready to let loose on an unsuspecting city. So, not bad. I'm happy with it. He is definitely going to look great on the display shelf. Only question is, who is he going to hang out with? So we'll take a look at some of our other characters that might look good with him on the shelf. Do a little size comparison. See what we get. I think he is going to work out just fine. Here we have a couple of playmates for our T-800 to hang out with, just to give you an idea of some size and scale comparisons. So first off, we've got Argus from the Astrobot line. He's just a big beefy robot. Scale isn't really an issue. He's technically kind of 1/12. It works because non-humanoids and other figures can always scale well. That's kind of a cheat. But he looks good, and I could definitely see these two going at it in some toy photography. So that's one option for you. Marvel Legends, not really going to scale well. This is a movie Deadpool, and as you can see, the scale is a little off. And this is going to be true for quite a few of the Hasbro lines and similar products. And the reason for that is Medicom MAFEX, I'll get it right eventually, is true 1/12 scale. So if you measure it out, he's like, 12 high would be the same as a normal person his size. So he is literally 1/12 the scale of a person. And even though Arnie's a big boy, that makes him slightly smaller than Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends are kind of what they call a heroic scale, so even though they're considered 1/12, they're slightly taller. They're a little bit bigger than true 1/12, and you can see that here. A little bit of forced perspective, you can make it work, but just to let you know, they're slightly out of scale. I figure one good cyborg deserves another. Here is a Mattel DC Universe Classics cyborg to square off with the T-800. These actually work pretty well. Again, the scale is not perfect, but you can make that work in some toy photography as well. Those will pair together pretty nicely. So we'll try that. And the same is true with my beloved Valaverse. They are slightly larger than true 1/12 scale, so that they will be compatible with G.I. Joe Classified, Marvel Legends, and other action-oriented heroic scale type figures. So, unfortunately, Pandora is going to be a little bit big. The Swarm Trooper you can get away with because, again, he's a armored, helmeted guy. So if you want to have Arnie going up against some Swarm, that's going to work. But it just doesn't look right with Pandora. She's just a little too big out of scale. What will work if you steal her bike, which I don't recommend stealing anything from this woman. She'll come and kick your butt. But, it's Arnie. You can get away with it. This motorcycle is true 1/12 scale. It's made by a company called Maestro. I can't pronounce it. But it's on the license plate. They make a lot of 1/12 scale vehicles, mostly motorcycles, Harleys, Yamahas, BMWs. If you have a favorite, they've probably made a make and model similar. So, it scales great with our T-800, and because he does have really good articulation, including at his hips, he can ride. Although, he is a big boy, so he'll look a little big on there, but of course the real Arnold is a big guy, so that makes sense. Tweak it a little bit, and you've got a sweet ride for your T-800. Yeah, that's gonna look good. And you could probably use one of the Marvel Legends motorcycles. It might be a little large, but again, scale is, it's however you want to make it work. So probably I'll just have this in the background for toy photography because it's a cool bike. And then scale won't be an issue. It doesn't have to be exact. As long as it looks good to the camera, you can make it work. So I'll have that in the background somewhere, or hanging out with him on the shelf when Pandora's not using it. That's going to look good. So that's pretty much our comparisons and our review. I think we've covered pretty much everything pertinent to this awesome figure. Would I recommend him? Yes. Great sculpt, great detail, good articulation, everything you would expect from MAFEX, and it's a little spendy, but it's a Japanese import, that's to be expected. You do get what you pay for. If you want something that is higher quality than what you're getting from some of the big brands, like, you know, I'm not going to name them, but let's just say you want a package that actually has a window so you can see what you're getting. If you want good packaging, if you want multiple accessories, weapons, hands, everything that this guy should come with, because he's based on a character in a movie that used his hands a lot and used a lot of weapons, MAFEX has got you covered. Usually when they come out with a prototype, whatever they're showing to the public, it's not far off. So it's not a bait and switch like some other people who put one thing on a package and something else inside the package. You're not going to get that with MAFEX. They do take a while to come out. Sometimes they are very slow on production. That is one thing I don't like, is having to do a lot of pre-orders and waiting, but they're worth the wait. This guy is definitely worth the wait. And there will be more coming. This particular T-800, like I said, is from the first film. MAFEX is also doing one from T2, and with any luck, we'll see an exoskeleton as well. That would be awesome. I'm very happy. I like what I've got. I'll do a little toy photography with him, probably with some Swarm, just because I really like playing with these guys too, and see what we come up with. But for now, thanks for coming to the lair and watching me goof off, and I hope maybe you learned something, like MAFEX and what's out there and available for your collection. Have a good have a good day, and I will see you in the near future. Thanks.